constantly changing lives. Tune in and listen with me as I go deep into your patterns and personal cycles through divine numerology. Any life transition you're experiencing can be illuminated by an in-depth analysis of your chart. For the first time in Stockton, you now have access to a professional numerologist here to help you light your own way. I'm in the booth to help you find your own truth. Tune in to Divine Numerology every Friday at 3 p.m. on The Voice of Stockton.
Do you want to relive the golden days of Stockton? Join Nate Knott on Stockton Alive every first and third Monday at 6 p.m. Tune into thevoiceofstockton.org.
KXVS, The Voice of Stockton Live. The Voice of Stockton at Stone Soup Studio. KXVS.org.
The views and opinions expressed in the following program do not necessarily reflect those of KXVS, The Voice of Stockton, or its parents, affiliates, management, and staff.
Hi, this is Joy Neas with Behind the Art Scene on KXVS, The Voice of Stockton. And today, my guest is my good friend, Khemya MitRahina, and she's an all-around performer, community activist, teacher, student, you name it, Khemya does it. So, welcome.
Thank you. Welcome, welcome.
And I was trying to figure out when we first met. Do you have any idea?
Wow, I do not know.
It's like we've known each other forever.
Yeah, it's kind of like a community spirit, and that we don't keep track of. We just melt into each other's heart when we can see each other.
There we go.
Because everybody's so busy doing what they do. So it, I don't know to answer that question. Years back.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I made a little list of all the different places I remember seeing you. So
okay.
I just wanted to go through that. The Chavez Library, you just did a little drum presentation with the kids. And the Van Busker Community Center, that was a really nice event. So you were there for 8 weeks?
Yes, we were there for 8 weeks at doing a residential program, and funded by the Stockton Arts Commission. And we that was our first residential program in African dance and drumming for the children of the community and families. And then we will continue on at the Teen Center, and that will start in May.
Okay. And coming up, the fairgrounds, you're going to be performing at the Asparagus Festival?
Yes, we are. We are in at the community stage. We are going to be, let me see. We are going to be on the 22nd, which is a Sunday, April 22nd, Sunday, at the community stage.
And what time is that?
I believe we're on 11:45 to 12:45.
Okay. And that is the same day as Earth Day. They're having the big Earth Day festival in Victory Park, but maybe you can go to both. You could start off with the asparagus and end up at Earth Day. Yes.
Could be. You know how it happens. We just travel like the river.
There you go.
We roll with the flow.
But if you'd like to go see Khemya, she's going to be over there right around noon at the fairgrounds. Where is the community stage? I get those confused.
Community stage, I go in off of Charter. So I know the other stage you have to kind of go up Airport and make a U-turn and go in that direction. But the entrance to get into the community stage, you go in off of Charter, and you just go straight past that livestock area, and then if you kind of cuddle around, it's right in that. It's more on that side.
Is it close to like where the racetrack is, or on the side?
It's you go in toward where the racetrack is, and then it's toward the back.
Okay.
Toward the back of that area.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I know that maybe you can talk a little bit about you started over at Filbert Arms.
Yes. Well, actually, I started after I came back to Stockton because I graduated with my first degree in dance at Delta. And then I went on to do the BA program at San Francisco State and my MA in Berkeley. And so when I arrived back to Stockton in the year of, I would say 1999, 2000, I began working through the Parks and Recreation. And at that time, I became a instructor in all of the centers. So I basically developed my own program, being it was African drumming and dance. And at that particular time, I had the Van Buskirk, McKinley, Seaford, and Sierra Vista, and Stribley. So all those centers, I would go and pack my drums and hit each one. And I got a chance to meet all of the children and families in those areas. And then at the end of all of those sessions, we would have one particular celebration that would try to bring all those communities together. And we started naming it the Festival of Peace of Healing. Because as you know, these were for at-risk children and families. So trying to get these families to come in and be a part of our community celebration and bring food for the children. So that was my main concept, to kind of bring these different areas together in a big community celebration.
And actually, Dawn, your daughters, beloved sisters, they sang at one of Khemya's events at the Festival of Peace and Healing.
Mm-hmm. We tried to support as often as possible. Something as wonderful as what Sister Khemya does. I mean, we already know that there's an unequal playing field out here for folks of different backgrounds, and to be able to give that attention and in a cultural way that makes those children feel not just special, but feel like they belong. And of course, anytime we got a chance to participate, we did.
And
nice.
I know that some of your drummers, they're still with you, all these years later.
Yes, that. Now we had some wonderful drummers out of Conway too. And we did some wonderful things out of Stribley too. But at one point in my life, an advantage came from a disadvantage, where I got placed at a housing project. And so at that particular time, I started living there and working with that particular community. And the other communities, they had me at that time, but now I went to Filbert Arms, and I was actually living there with the families and the kids. So I began to make my one-bedroom apartment an after-school program. And at that particular time, that's when I met a lot of the children. Some of the kids are still with me from that area. I think they were 8 years old, 12. Some of them were in kindergarten. Some of them were in Pampers still. So they would walk up to my door and knock, and they'd have a diaper on. But they knew that my door was open. They knew that I did a lot of different programs in the community, such as at my place we did drumming, we did poetry, we did dance, we did cooking with the kids. We did empowerment programs where I would take them out into the community to perform at different celebrations, such as Martin Luther King. We did library programs where I would take them to Fair Oaks Library, and they would do reading programs there at the library. We did a garden program at Martin Luther King School, And so I was working with all of the school. I was working with the housing project and the coordinator there. And at that particular time was the best time, I think, for me in Stockton, because everybody was working together.
What year would you say that is?
I would say that was between the year of 2000 to 2005. At that particular time, the coordinator was working with me. She loved the work that I did there at the housing project with the kids. She was trying to open the door for more things to happen at these particular housing project areas. And so she was pulling for me. The Fair Oaks Library was working with me. The Boys and Girls Club was working with me. The principal from Martin Luther King School was working with me. And and some major people that had businesses in that area all were supporting me. So we had just a full community support and for the children, and it was just enormous amount of love, and I don't think it could have got any better.
So that was all in the east section?
On the east side of Stockton, yes. I think it was so good that it always says, well, the good dies out. So at a particular time, when positive things become so progressive, it almost becomes a pivot for other things to come in and kind of throw a damper on it.
Yeah.
And so, but we won't talk about that particular energy. We'll stay with the positive energy. But it was so enormous, and the kids were with me. The parents were supporting, and we were doing these programs for their children. I was not charging a dime, and the community was fully supporting the things that I did.
Mm-hmm.
So
I will say, the Fair Oaks Library, at one point they closed for 7 years, but now they're back.
They are back.
They're back.
Yes.
So we have an opportunity, and I know that when I went to the grand reopening, you were there.
Yes.
You were drumming,
cheering,
and dancing, and cheering.
Cheering them on, Joy, and so that's the main thing here, is that we try to keep the spirit going, and revitalize. And I think having enrichment programs, I don't care in what field and what capacity, but enrichment programs for our neighborhoods, for our communities, can always be a win-win. It will always be a win-win.
Sure.
Know, and that's basically what I was providing after my particular educational programs, coming back and just immersing yourself in the community, praying and saying, how can I be of use here, and just allowing yourself to be of use. That was the main function here.
Well, you've certainly been of use to Stockton. All that you've brought. I went to the Boys and Girls Club one time. You had the Kwanzaa celebration. You've been a part of Art Splash. Hopefully you guys will come sometime between May and October. We have 6 months coming up.
Okay.
You were a part of the Art Against Violence at the fairgrounds there. Then some more recent things, the Ports, they had their big celebration, and you were out there dancing, and that was wonderful.
Yes.
And the RTD, can you talk about that, the music on the bus?
Yeah, that was a program they were trying to start, and where they would invite certain artists from the community on the bus to ride with the patrons and ride with the community people, and you would do whatever art form you did. And we did drumming, so we brought all the drums on the bus and they kind of drums on the bus, and they kind of drove us around Stockton, different areas, and people got on and they kind of looked at us like, what's going on? And then they kind of just melted into what we were doing. we kind of pulled them in, and they began singing with us, and some of them were drumming on their legs. So it was a fun excursion.
That was wonderful. I hope RTD can continue to do that.
Yes.
And I know that I think you were on the number 44 bus. So that went the bus went down by the fairgrounds and went all in the south side area there. And then it came back. But you got off the bus and you did dancing right on the bus platform. Yes, a big African dancing and drumming.
Everybody knows that wherever the drums are going to be and Khemya's there, it's going to be a celebration. It's just going to be a celebration, and that's what I try to do, is bring celebration and bring moments of happiness and joy, and where people could come and join in that circle, and just they don't have to know the dance steps. They just do their own thing. Sometimes we've had hip hop, break dancers come in, and we just kind of step back and look like, whoa, okay. I mean, and then some people would just want to come in and clap or just give thanks, and that's what we just try to provide, a circle of celebration. A circle of celebration.
I wanted to ask you, while I got you here, do you have a personal favorite between drumming, dancing, or singing? You got a favorite?
No.
You like it all?
No, I don't think you could split me up like that. That would be hard to do. My feet would go one way, my hands would go the other, and then my voice would go somewhere else.
She's all together.
No, all a whole being, and I love. I guess from a child I was raised up in the arts, and when I started taking it a little bit more serious, and taking it into the educational field, that became a more serious form, because of course you're learning a lot more about the history. Of course, the gamut goes so widespread, and so especially in African dance and music, you have to choose and pick a certain area or continent that you are going to I say be loyal to or dive into, because it's so wide. The diaspora is so wide. So for me, when I started in Afro-Haitian dance in the Bay Area. And there it was so strong, very, very strong population back from the 50s and 60s even. And so then when I came to Stockton, and I got more serious about my first degree, Miss Linda Tragle was at Delta Community College, and she was part of the Afro-Haitian dance community, and from the Bay Area. So it all, I try to tell the kids the story, the history, because we had I'm going to mention her. My elder was Nansisi Caillou, and she started the first African Cultural Center in San Francisco. She was my chair of the dance department at San Francisco State. So she held a hat of many. She was the chair of that department. She was the director of Wajumbe, and all of these dancers and drummers from way before me came out of Wajumbe, San Francisco, and the Bay Area. So that's not mentioned a lot here, but I need to mention it to give people their props, because Linda was already here serving this community with the Afro-Haitian dance. And so I kind of fit into the scope here, but not so much in the cultural dance then, more in the choreography, because Linda Tragle was, if anybody knows her, she was huge about putting these huge productions on of dancers in her class, from her classes, and put these huge productions on at the Atherton. and just gave us kind of the leadway of this huge stage we could choreograph in and just let our imagination run. And I got a taste of doing huge pieces of choreography on these stages. Mm-hmm. So I was just like the imagination door was just open, and we could put our vision on the stage and utilize our dance abilities and everything for these huge productions.
So what year was that?
That would be, for me, the year between 91 and 93. Okay. But I know she was there past that. So she taught all of the dance forms, not just Afro-Haitian. And so as I left here to seek my BA degree in dance and music ethnology, I got more into the Afro-Cuban realm and Afro-Haitian, and more into the Yoruba part of the dance. So that's of Nigeria. So that's when things started streamlining for me in a particular area. My drum teacher at San Francisco State was Malonga Casquilord, and he was from the Congo. And he basically was teaching the drumming there, the West African drumming. And we had just an array of teachers, wonderful master teachers. And I was the last graduating class before that program, before it was...
So when was that?
That was 1996. I was the last graduating class before that program ended. Oh, okay. And so what I tried to do is go on with my master's in arts and consciousness studies and really learn how to use what I've learned in a cultural understanding and take the healing part of that and use it for healing purposes, if that makes sense. So I came back to Stockton, and some people from our degree of arts and consciousness out of John F. Kennedy, they would go into hospitals, they would go into hospice crisis with patients and use their art form as therapy. When I came back to Stockton, that's when I started immersing myself in these different centers and developing a drum and dance residential program in these communities that would then go into Van Buskirk and then filter into Filbert Arms on the east side.
So
a lot of history.
I was wondering what makes you so passionate about education, about learning.
Oh, education is it'll keep on reciting itself, but education is the key of life. Even in the things that I do, when I came to Stockton, believe it or not, I came across a community that still did not quite understand the traditions of African dance or drumming, or even the spiritual part of the traditions, which is Ifa, and then all of the history that came out of that through slavery into the Caribbean islands and throughout the diaspora, and nobody really quite still understood it, and it was still looked at as taboo. I came up in the 60s, which was a cultivation of everybody fighting for freedom, during the Martin Luther King civil rights movement. I did not have to go through the segregation and all of those things. I was raised to love everybody as one person and embrace one person, one soul. But there were people before me that they had to live through these parts of life, and life was segregated, and drumming was not allowed, and the African dance was not allowed, and people had to do it in secrecy, believe it or not. And so because of that stage, it still got looked at as being taboo, or something that you can't do, that you shouldn't do. And the abandonment of it really got taken into places that that needed to be educated about. You needed to bring the education with the dance form and the music form so that people could know the richness of the culture that it came from. It didn't come from heathens or barbarians or these things that people put on top of it. And so the education is the golden key to life. It is where you get a chance to educate and bring forth the wonderful strength and the holistic understanding of African dance and what it holds, or African drumming and what it holds to a community, and the upliftment of it to a community, the vital impact it has, even to the growth of the vegetation, and how people cultivate around the vegetation to celebrate what grows from the earth, or to give thanks to a celebration for elders, or those type of things that is really vital to uplift our community and celebrate. You need education along with it.
So you certainly have brought that, Khemya.
Try to.
I wanted to ask, so you just finished a degree. Can you talk about that?
That degree was a wonderful degree. After I finished with my, I guess you can say my charity work, or, just giving back to the community, it was about 2006. I had just finished a PhD program at Philbert Arms in the health and healing of natural health, and I wrote and did a dissertation about the health of the spirit. So it was not so much food is important, as we know. How you keep yourself is important, is just as healthy, but the spiritual health, the health of the spirit, is the vitality of, I think, what's inside of you, and what keeps you going, what keeps you alive, what keeps you sparked to continue life in such a happy and positive way. So that was my dissertation through my PhD.
Where was that program from?
That was called Clayton College of Natural Health and Healing. That program was under a lot of attack. Reason why, and these are things we don't like to talk about, but since I'm trying to be transparent in my life, what that program was discovering, they had a lot of naturopathic doctors in that program, and that program was discovering through research that there was a lot of cures to cancers and a lot of things that were being thrown and upcoming in throughout the medical understanding. And so we had a lot of naturopathic people that were coming up with these remedies and how to remedy certain ailments. And so that program was under attack because you had, at that time, you had a whole system through the medical field that was just learning about natural remedies and were willing to embrace the natural healing side of health. And so I was just coming into that program, but I too, I think I was one of the last graduates before they closed that program too. So I got on the end.
When was that?
That would be in, I think, 2008. I finished that program.
And then you went right into another one, right?
I went into music because I finished a lot of the charity in my community, and I wanted to know more about my artistic self, my growth as a musician, as an artist in the field, and I wanted to learn more about that since I had kind of put it on the back. So I went back to do a full music degree. The first degree in music was music ethnology, so it was ethnic studies of music and non-Western cultures. But this one would immerse me straight into the music field and as a student and learner. And boy, that music degree took me on a spin, because if you do not know it out there in the community, musicians, you know, whether you go to school, whether you're learning your art or practicing as a self-learner, music is such a, how should I say, compassionate, but it has so much to it. It has so much to learn inside of it. And so you kind of fall into this abyss and it just takes you. So the music degree I started was out of Modesto Junior College, and they were sister cities with Columbia Community Junior College. And so I took half of my studies at Modesto College, Junior College, and I was in a voice degree program, studying theory, studying composition, studying classical music, which was all brand new to me, learning to sing in the Romantic languages such as Italian, and I'll include Spanish and French and German and Portuguese. And I had never really sang in these languages before. So I was like a kid in a candy store. And I went on from that AA degree and the BA in dance and music ethnology, and then jumped into a master's, an MFA in music performance and vocal study. And that just took me to a higher level. I had a wonderful teacher, Marcel Dronkers, out of Notre Dame de Namur in Belmont. And Deborah Lambert was the chair of that program, who did musical theaters programs. And I never was a part of musical theater either. So I did my first musical theater there, which was Once on This Island, a wonderful musical theater piece about an island of Haiti, which out of the Caribbean islands had a huge message in it about the Creole people and the adversity between the light-skinned black people and the darker skin. And so it really made me understand how musical theater can educate people as well in these huge messages that is behind them, with the music, dance, the drumming, the compositions, the lyrics. This was a huge education in itself. So there I learned that, yes, musical theater can educate your audience as well in these very serious messages, you know, that take place in our history. So I went through that program and graduated.
Yes, so we went to your graduation, and then you had your
recital.
Your recital.
We had to do a huge recital. My recital was, well, I was a different candidate there at that program, being I was brought in from the dance and music ethnic program. So they knew I did the African drumming. They knew I did the dance. They allowed me to do presentations in the drumming there. They let me do some choreography in the Afro-Haitian and Afro-Cuban. And then they let me do my own theater project as also a graduate program. So it was a capstone program, and I actually wrote my first theater piece, which was the theater and ritual of African dance and drumming of Oshun, the goddess of the river. And so my first one was of Oshun, and then my second one was for Yemoja, the orishas of the Yoruba tradition. And I wrote it as a theatrical composition and as an educational piece, a folkloric educational piece as well. But the end recital, that was just singing, and I had to do 30 pieces in that recital, and they had to entail all of the languages, and all pieces had to be memorized. And so that was quite an extensive recital for me.
that was me seeing Khemya in opera mode.
I was in Italian opera mode.
Operatic voice.
Operatic soprano.
And you changed your dresses several times.
I got to do the whole full wonderful recital of wearing the gowns, and I never had an opportunity that way, and I got to do I entailed my my recital as all of me, because basically this is all of me. And so it was Italian operatic, Italian opera by Bellini. Bellini was the focus composer from Italy. He was from Sicily. And wonderful compositions. And then I also highlighted Villa Lobos, which was out of Brazil, and he was a guitarist, so a lot of the folk guitar people know who that is. And I got to sing a couple of his pieces, and then I also did a piece by Marlos Nobre from Brazil. And these composers brought in the folk traditions of their lands into the classical world. So I kind of bridged the two together. I also brought in musical theater with Showboat. I did a couple pieces from Showboat with Queenie. And I did a couple of pieces from this wonderful contemporary composer out of New York, Ricky Ian Gordon, whose compositions were Ricky Ian Gordon, if anybody has not heard, is a classical composer who has taken a lot of poetry from famous poets and composed music. So he did a whole array of Langston Hughes poetry, and I did two pieces that just were wonderful called My People, that Ricky Ian Gordon composed from Langston Hughes poetry, and another one was called Prayer. And those two pieces were so beautiful to me. I also did Summertime, my favorite. I did Moshke Nada. And then I also wrote a composition. I got to write my own composition and actually compose it musically. And then my coach, who played piano, she was a pianist, wonderful young pianist by the name of Elizabeth Neff. This girl is brilliant, and I actually gave her the composition. She worked it out, and we were able to perform that for my recital. And I also did another piece that by Sting called Fragile, but I put it together with two pieces, but did it in kind of my own version way, and did a medley, and handed the chord. I would just map the chords out and throw it to the pianist. And this is what's good about having a good pianist by your side, because they can just look at it and just kind of map it out, and they have your back. I do play piano, but I am not a pianist, and I wasn't brought up to play piano. I do teach beginning piano for children and as foundation and theory, but by not all means, I am not a pianist that can just take a piece of music, set it in front of them, and boy, they just whip through it like that. That is a true pianist musician. So I was fortunate to have these people around me working with me, and was able to get through that recital because of them. But the music was just so wonderful. Each piece, you had to research each piece and learn about the composer, the history, what you were doing it for. I actually did one of the pieces by Bellini that which he composed for Giulietta, which was the Romeo and Juliet opera, but it was recomposed in Italian. So a lot of people don't know that opera was recomposed for the Italian opera, and Giulietta was the lady who was the prime part of that opera. So I actually did an aria by her, which is completely beautiful. It's gorgeous. So a lot.
And then right after you finish that, now you've launched into another degree.
I know.
Oh my word!
I will be a forever learner, educator, teacher. I don't think I'll stop. That comes back from just in the beginning of my life as a teenager, went a little haywire. And as teenagers know, life gets testy. So the only way I made it through was to get myself in school. And I got myself in school and I never got out. So that became my journey. I figure, to save my life and to uplift my life and empower my life became education.
So what's the next one?
I got myself into an EDD program, which is in education, a doctorate in education. It's in leadership and organization. So and the reason why I felt that this will be my last and foremost, because all of the work I've done up until now has basically been a compiled piece of study and research in the arts, and how the arts fortifies a community and becomes a bridge between the community and the schools. So even though I have not been a particular teacher in a school, I have worked as a teaching artist in the schools under grants and worked with the community centers. And what I found as most valuable, in fact, this is what my dissertation will be about, is the impact of art partnerships between the community and the schools. And that would be vital for the criminal justice system. That will be vital for the educational system that is now under lack of a better word, lack of the arts. And then as well as these communities in these at-risk neighborhoods that have a total lack of the art and people coming in there to work with these children in these after-school programs. So that's the array of my dissertation, and so it's along the work that I've been doing already, but the research gets pretty heavy because even I've been in it for 5 classes so far, and this is out of Phoenix, Arizona, at Grand Canyon University.
So do you do that online?
Online. Yeah, my EDD had to be online because we are artists in our field, we are teachers in our field, so all of our work is with us. So we have a schedule here to try to make and earn a living, and we're not as fortunate as a full-fledged teacher in a school. So we have to make our own living as an artist, as the things that we do. And so you have to have a schedule that will melt around the things that you already do. And that EDD allows me to do that. It allows to kind of melt that schedule around my programs.
How long do you think that's going to take?
I think 2018, I started, as soon as I got out, I started August 2018. And
you mean 17?
17, excuse me. So I've already been 5 classes in the program. I'm going on my 5th class. And so they teach you research. You're in research classes first, which was probably the best for me. So because as music candidates know, you when you're in music, but research has its own other particular side to it. So you have to know how to research, you have to know how to documentate, you have to know all of these. So that's full entailment in a research program, and I love it.
So we're getting to the close. Why don't you tell some of the things that are upcoming?
Okay.
The next classes you have are at the Teen Center, the Podesta Teen Center.
Yes. So we have this wonderful summer program because of the Stockton Arts Commission grant funding, and we are going to be presenting what we call All of the Diaspora, and in that we have these wonderful workshops coming up. So these workshops. I start teaching the 2nd residential program at the Teen Center. That's going to be for children, and that's going to be on Fridays and Saturdays, and that is free of all costs. So children will come for drumming class, African drumming class. We'll have African dance, Caribbean dance there, and adult drumming. So that's free.
Is there a certain age?
Age can be from anywhere from 10 on up to adult. If it's 10 and younger, and this will be at the Teen Impact Center, we ask that an adult come and sit with that child, because children are welcome, but we need the parent to be there with the child. But these workshops are going to be monthly workshops that happen where we invite guest artists to come in who are masters in their tradition. And the first one starts in May. We have May 19th. These are all going to be at the Teen Center. May 19th, we have Susana Pedrosa coming from San Francisco. She is a great friend and also a teacher of mine in the Afro-Cuban folklore of dance. So she'll be coming to the Teen Center on May 19th. And Sandy Perez, who are both from Cuba, and they will come present at the Teen Center here. We're inviting them to our city on May 19th.
What's the address? It's El Dorado. It's
North El Dorado.
North El Dorado.
And the address I have
I think it's 723 or something.
Yes, I mean, look. So that address is 725 North El Dorado
725.
Street, Stockton. And so what we will have on May 19th, we will have Afro-Cuban dance from 11 to 1. Then we will take a break, a lunch break from 1 to 2. And then we will come with Sandy Perez, who will do an Afro-Cuban drumming. And that'll be from 2 to 4. And then we hope we take a little break, and from about 4:30 to 5:30 close, we'll have a little presentation from them. And we ask that you can bring your djembe drums out to these workshops with Sandy Perez, but we also ask that you bring conga drums if you have them. It'll be $15 per workshop, and if you sign up for both the dance and the drumming, you get a discount, and it'll be $25 if you sign in advance. And lunch will be served to those that sign up in advance and pay for both workshops. You will get a free lunch. For others that sign up for just one class or so, we will still have lunch, but we will offer the lunch at a cost.
So how do they sign up at the Teen Center?
No, they will sign up through me at my email address. My email, I have flyers here I will leave you. But my email address is mitrahina@yahoo.com, or they can call my number at area code 209-688-2736. And this would be all sponsored by our nonprofit organization of Pan-African Dance and Music. And that is coming up May 19th. So please come and support these wonderful artists from Cuba, but now they work and teach in the Bay Area from Oakland and San Francisco, and we honor them here as guests and family.
Yeah, you're going to be doing that a few more times?
Yeah, in June, we will offer Zeke, who is a professional master drummer in the Haitian folklore of drumming. So he will be offering the drumming workshop from Haiti, from the Haitian folklore and traditions. And that will be at the Teen Center, again, June 9th. That is June 9th at the Teen Center, from 1 to 3, a 1 to 3 drum workshop, and that cost will be $15 per party. You can sign up again at my email and my phone number. And in July we're not finished yet. July 14th is another Saturday. We have a master drummer and dancer from Guinea coming, doing a wonderful West African dance and drumming workshop with the djembe drum. And he will be at the Teen Center July 14th, which is a Saturday. Again, that will be a dance and drum. And each workshop is either $15 or $25 for both if you pay for in advance. And then August 18th, we will have our whole community celebration at the Teen Center. August 18th will be at the Teen Center for a community celebration, and anybody that wants to participate, any poets, dancers, singers, anyone that wants to make this a bigger celebration is invited in August to the Peace and Healing celebration.
Okay, very good.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so got a lot of stuff coming up.
A lot of stuff coming up, and I just want to give thanks to the Stockton Arts Commission to help us this year, and we are able to open the door to bring the education in. As we know, when we have these workshops, the artists are able to teach about their traditions. I do Afro-Cuban, Afro-Haitian dance, and I do West African djembe drumming, but these are masters of their traditions that grew up in the continent, in the country, and they are coming here to Stockton, and we want to receive them. We receive them well and receive them with respect, so they may come back again and educate about, you know, these wonderful art forms, these sacred art forms, and open our diaspora, open our minds to the diaspora and all the richness that it contains.
Mm-hmm. And that's a pretty reasonable fee. So
definitely reasonable.
You get your money's worth. So.
Oh, definitely. In the Bay Area, it would be quite more.
Oh, yes.
But
yes.
Stockton, of course, we will. We are going to try to do these workshops for their parents. We are going to try to get sponsors to pay for the children in case they cannot afford the workshops. And so we ask any companies, any restaurants or other businesses, if you want to sponsor a child for these workshops and so that they can take them, please contact me again at area code 209-688-2736 or email me at mitrahina@yahoo.com. I do have some flyers here, and we do have our website on the flyer. Our website is long, and I'll say it really fast. It's Traditional Ancient Arts Center. That's Traditional Ancient Arts with the S Center dot synthesite SYNTHASITE SITE.com. You could get to our website that will further introduce me and a lot of the work that I've done in the community. And I know Joy mentioned all of these degrees. I do try to remain humble, and I ask people to refer to me as Sister Khemya because I'm more of a community person, and that's how I want to be known here in Stockton. So with that said.
And Khemya is just about the most humble person I know. So the reason I wanted to know about the degrees, I very much would like to get a PhD, and I'm trying to explore that. And I'd love it to be in some kind of like public art, how to bring art into the community.
It is so I hope you continue with that vision because it is so necessary. And I see the tear. Oh. A tear coming to Joy's eye when she just said that, because that's her passion. And when you bring your passion in the community to spark a child's life or bring something to a child to uplift them, there's nothing better you can stand for. And that's why we work in the communities, me and her as well, between the community and the schools. Uh-huh. We definitely have to be the bridges in between, because the schools, they're cutting them more and more, and the centers they're cutting, and it's going to be up to us to become the bridges.
Yeah, we need it out in the community, wherever we can find it, whether it be the schools, the community centers, libraries, out in the public, in parks, in just every place, plazas. So that's what I'm all about. But
yes, ma'am. And I want to just say that the education brings it to a higher format where you're able to go into the school districts and let them know how viable the arts are. And now you have numbers, now you have statistics to weigh against the odds to say, these programs are viable, we need them. And then you can explain to them why. You could go to high officials and policymakers. So that's why the education is very important. It puts you in a different league to deal with people that can make policy and make changes happen. Mm-hmm.
Very good. So I'd like to thank Khemya for coming on and being my guest today. And we'll see you next week on Behind the Art Scene at KXVS, the Voice of Stockton.